walking was the most important thing. People don't understand. If you want to burn fat, oxidative phosphorylation is low intensity. If you want to go out there and run high intensity and bury blah, 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 you really aren't burning fat. You're burning sugar, which can help with your BMR down the line. But if you really have to just get started out, walk for 45 minutes at, a forward pace on the treadmill. Easiest. I mean, I do all my work, my emails. I don't know how many TV shows I've watched because it's very low intensity, yet it's hard for me to actually put fat on. It's just common sense with the way you do it. You combine the right nutrition, the right hydration, and the right medicines, peptides, whatever else you might be on for whatever your goals are. And, staying healthy is one of the easiest things you can do. Being unhealthy is one of the funnest things you can do.
Yeah,
It's a balance between both.
Welcome to MyMD Unscripted, where healthcare gets personal and the script gets tossed. I'm Dr. Clint Carter, ER doctor turned direct primary care freedom fighter, on a mission to challenge how our healthcare system treats patients in America. In every episode, my expert guests and I dive into real conversations about what's broken and how we can fix it by making healthcare about people, not just managing disease. It's time to rethink what healthcare should be and how we can make it better together. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us again on the MyMD Unscripted podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Clint Carter, and I am thrilled to introduce you to a South Beach superstar, Dr. Ivan Rusilko, the founder of Lifestyle Medicine in Miami Beach. But more interesting than that, he started as a two-time Mr. USA international fitness model, turned into a doctor that fuses science and lifestyle to redefine what it means to be healthy in the modern world. I can't imagine where this is going to go. I can't wait. Dr. Rusilko, we'll have you introduce yourself a little more detailed than that, but my teaser question for you is, what if your doctor could help you reboot your entire life and not just prescribe a pill for your symptoms? Go imagine. So, hey, thanks for joining us.
Heck yeah, man. Thank you. And again, if my doctor could do that, he'd be my new best friend. That's for sure. And unfortunately, I think every doctor's mission should be that. And, you see time and time again that, the Hippocratic Oath is always, do no harm to your patient. But, it's kind of scary that the third leading cause of death in the United States is doctors. So it's a situation whereas I think this whole new wellness revolution, if you want to call it anti-aging, functional, integrative, I know there's so many different words you could use for it now, but basically I call it common sense medicine. So where we're basically trying to sit there and put the ideology and the philosophy of treating one's emotionality, mentality, and physicality back at the forefront of medicine, and not bending the knee to big pharma or insurance companies or just the overall juggernaut that is traditional medicine.
I mean, I love what you're doing. My listeners understand that we're doing a direct primary care type business model. And what that does, it allows us to take care of people the right way. And so what you're doing is super interesting. I can't wait to dig into it. But start at the beginning. How did you go from Mr. USA to founding Lifestyle Medicine?
Well, it's funny. I actually never want to do anything with medicine. My father's a chiropractor. My mother had her master's in psychology. And then, of course, my brother had to go and get accepted to medical school out of high school. So that kind of put a lot of pressure on me. I was happy playing hockey. I was accepted to play professional hockey when I was 16. But, as older brothers do, the younger one, which was me, had to kind of always try to one up, So I actually also got accepted to medical school out of high school. I truncated all of my undergrad in 2 years, went directly into medical school. Luckily enough, I got to do the whole D1 hockey there. I started bodybuilding, did very well with that. That turned into kind of, the international modeling, which was kind of interesting to say the least. Yeah. And surprisingly, the first year of my medical school, I was actually accepted to run for the Mr. USA Pennsylvania title. I went to Boston, and lo and behold, I actually won Mr. USA, which was kind of fun. I didn't expect to win it. Me and my mom went up there. I think I got a little too drunk before the show. Maybe that's why I was a little loose for it. And then everything just kind of took off from there. I actually had to take a year off of medical school. I went to LECOM, which is now, I guess, considered the largest medical school in the country. That's an osteopathic school out of Erie. And then from there, everything went crazy. I did the Oscars, fashion weeks. You name it. I got this ways people didn't. But the entire time for my medical school had told me that I have to pass the COMLEX Part 3 as a first year if I wanted to get back into medical school. So I'm doing fashion week and studying nephrology and coming out, doing walking, coming back, and all this other kind of crazy bullshit.
No way.
Yeah, it was great though. It's a very good thing. And I think the entire Mr. USA thing and the modeling, the bodybuilding really gave me an appreciation for not only what the human body can do, but also where medicine, I think, needs to go. Because you'd be there with people with just crazy affluence, celebrities, button pushers, as I call them, the guys who can sit there and change, economic trends with just shifting around money. but they all had the same issues. They were too fat to get into their Ferraris. You know, they'd spent all this on their table and had ED or whatever it could be. So I kind of put my hat on. I was like, maybe I can fix this as a physician. So granted, I was 24 at the time. Came out of that, you know, I ran through medical school. I thankfully won the, you know, one of the top honors, which was the Dean's Award.
Oh, wow.
Kind of cool, you know, to sit there and, you know, kind of graduate with my class under me, but take that award home.
That's right.
And then that just kind of came out. I got accepted to PM&R, which is Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation. It was an MD program here in Miami. I started my rotating internship, and I just said, you know, to hell with it. I don't really like the traditional medicine thing. I knew exactly what I wanted, so I backed out of it. Luckily enough, the program director, his name's Dr. Sherman, was gracious enough to write me a very nice letter to sit there and say, don't blacklist this kid. You know, I like what he's doing. Then I came to Miami, and I didn't know anybody. I set up shop, and next thing I know, I was the Christian Troy of Miami Beach from Nip Tuck. You know what I mean? My main goal to begin with.
As exciting as your beginning was, you couldn't possibly have gone into traditional medicine. It just couldn't have compared. I know that for sure, man. So early on, you know, you go to South Beach in, you know, when was that? 2015, 2012?
So I got to South Beach 2010. I was theoretically still not, I didn't have my license yet, but the place was called the Miami Institute. It was out of the Four Seasons. It was kind of a very high-end high-end surgery suite. And they kind of brought me on early, and then I kind of grew into that, then just went to international, took over the Delano, and then opened up Lifestyle.
Dude, well, so back in those days, doing, you know, outside the box stuff probably was under a lot of scrutiny.
What was the article I got was Snake Oil or Not. It was the front cover of the Miami Times, and it was a good article or not, but it turned out to work out very well for me in the end.
Snake oil for sure. This darn snake oil just keeps working.
It's working for everybody. I don't know what's going on, man.
How is what you do at Lifestyle? Is it functional, integrative? What are you doing exactly?
That's a super good question, and I still have trouble figuring it out. I'm not gonna lie. I say it's basically common sense medicine. My biggest thing is diagnostic testing. I actually also have a podcast called Lifestyle Medicine, hosted or sponsored by Access Medical Labs, which is the lab company I use. And it's a situation where I think precision medicine, which I think is the most correct term, I guess I could call what this is. It's all about diagnostics. And, you know, you can sit there and I tell everybody, you know, once you have peptides and hormones and IVs and hyperbaric, these are all pieces of a puzzle. And the picture of the puzzle is actually the diagnostic testing. Because you can't really, I mean, it's not a one size fits all. I think the biggest pitfall of traditional medicine is that it's one size. Diabetes is diabetes. No, it's not. You know what I mean? Heart disease. No, it's not. You know what I mean? Like, it's specific for each person. So with how I operate, you know, I don't see anybody unless they have a very in-depth blood testing panel. I do blood and urine. And then from that, I mean, medicine gets so much easier because you actually have the picture of the puzzle you're trying to put back together instead of being like, well, maybe it's diet, maybe it's hormone, you don't know it and test it. It's just great to sit there and see how actually easy my job is because of the amount of labs I'm able to actually see. And then patients come here, and again, you know, I'm not a cheap physician, but you know, it's where I'm at. And it's also, you know, I give myself to my patients, you know, and like, I think you can agree. I think every physician should be the hero to their actual patients. You should live the lifestyle. You should look the part. You know, I always tend to tease on all the interviews I do. You can't take weight loss advice from a fat doctor.
That's right.
You know, I mean, like, it's true. And I think, you know, you need to go. I mean, I think healthcare practitioners, like, especially with what you're doing with MyMD Select, I think it's fascinating. You know, you're putting the power back into the actual patients, which is great. You know, it's not in insurance companies. It's not in big pharma. It's not in the whole system, if you will. You know, you're empowering the physician to make the best correct decision they can make in the patient's best interest.
The patients need to be empowered as well. They're being told from their other physicians that everything's fine on their labs and that you're getting old. Deal with it. You know, it's like that doesn't leave them with any options. And here you're able to say, no, look, this is wrong. This is wrong. We can work on this. And all we have to do is, you know, let's start going in this direction. So I love having, like you said, deep dive diagnostics to show your patient which direction they need to go.
Heck yeah. No, again, it's the most important part of my business. Everybody will sit there and be like, why am I spending all this money on diagnostics? I'm like, because this is where you start. It's the starting line. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to jump the peptides and all that stuff, that's great. You're going to spend even more money on that, but it might not work. It might be pissing in the wind. You know what I mean? Like, everyone wants exosomes, stem cells, and this, that, and the other. I saw it on Joe Rogan. So but I mean, like, you know how expensive that stuff is if your body's not acclimatized to it. then you're going to be getting 10% of what you paid for. So, getting that foundational aspect of your cellular health, your senescent cell clearances and things like that to build your foundation on, I think is the most important thing. And you can't do without diagnostics as well as a trained eye to sit there and look outside the box, which I think, that's why I love talking to people like you. You don't look linearly, you look, pragmatically.
Well, and, God forbid we have to run the labs again to see what's working, right? You feel a little better. Let's run them again.
Again, I would say the first one's your report card. Every lab after that's my report card. As long as you follow it, like, I make sure I follow everybody on Instagram. So they come and say, I didn't lose any weight. Look, you just spent $10,000 on a bottle of Live. I mean, like, I know why you didn't lose the weight. Don't bullshit a bullfitter. You know what I mean? Like, so, I always sit there and say labs are a great measure of how not only you're doing as a patient, but how your doctor is actually prescribing the medication you're given.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, that's great. I don't like having a report card for me as a doctor, though. I don't know that that's too much pressure, man.
It is. I'm not going to lie, but you have to sit there and make sure you can figure out why things are going on. And it's funny. I'll sit there and see the two biggest demons I have to slay when it comes to this industry. It's not side effects. It's nothing like that. Because everything in this industry is, as I'm sure is very low risk, high yield. It's hydration, it's stress, it's sleep, and it's nutrition. The amount of people who come in who underhydrate and actually not overeat, but undereat on these programs, it's definitely, I'm starting your metabolism. I'm starting everything back. You have to eat like a 20-year-old. You want better hair, skin, and nails. That doesn't just come out of nowhere. You want muscles. You want better, mentality. That's just not something that's just conjured up, out of goodwill and good vibration.
It takes a lot of protein to feed that stuff.
Heck yeah, it does. And people don't get that. I say you have to increase your water by 50% and increase your food by at least 25% to really make these programs work. And again, that's on you. I can lead a horse to water. I can't milk it. I can tell you what to do. You don't want to do it. It's just like, shit, where do I go with this one?
Oh, that's great. Well, okay. So that leads to, I've seen on your website and what you're doing, talking about mental, emotional, physical, like the environment that the patient creates and around themselves. Tell me about how that comes into playing into transforming your patient's health.
No, again, stress reduction is one of the most important things. So I'm going to bring it back to diagnostic testing for a second. Diagnostic testing, all I'm doing is actually looking for any types of stress or inflammation in the body. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's low this or high this, it's going to be a result of inflammation or stress. But a lot of things that people don't do is they don't take really good in-depth intake forms, and ask the right questions. How is your sexual health? You know how hard that is to ask a 50, 60-year-old woman? You know what I mean? Like, but that's a root of what's going on. Her husband's not having sex with her anymore. She's depressed. She's anxious. She's always going to be in a state of inflammation or depression or all these other different things. Same thing with a man. Are you waking up with erections anymore? It's a hard conversation to have with a CEO of a very big company, but that gives me such an idea of what might be causing the stress in their system. So taking these big things on mentality and most importantly, emotionality, which I group spirituality, I group lifestyle, I group who your friends are, everything into that aspect. And it's probably, everything is equally as important as the other, but I think a lot of physicians overlook that whole emotionality aspect of it when that's just as important as your physicality.
No, you could just throw some Lexapro at it and they'll be fine, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
How you feel going in emotionally, mentally, spiritually, it can't disconnect that from their physical health. It's one and the same. I love it. So you do some labs, you do a lot of labs, you start working with them on their stress and inflammation. What tools do you have? What are you using there in South Beach these days to start intervening? I suspect it's more fun and exciting than we have in Northeast Texas.
Well, it is. And again, like, so I don't know, maybe I got Texas, you could have some fun. I'm not going to lie. Hold on here. But no, it's funny because like, I always say I'm a student of life. I'm consistently learning. I'm kind of a nerd in that way. And it's fun because I've been using things like NAD, methylene blue. I mean, all these different things that you're just now hearing about since 2010. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's funny, but before I was even a licensed physician, I was getting into this kind of stuff. So it's all about learning the basics, learning how iron works in the system, how it transports oxygen was probably one of the most important things I've ever learned. And now you'll see every physician throwing methylene blue at patients, not even knowing how it works. Then thing with actual NAD, nobody really even knows what it does. They just, I saw this podcaster talking about NAD, so I'll prescribe it. No, go back and learn the basics of it. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what I've done my entire career. And that's why I've been using, I was actually the first physician to write the protocol for IGF-1LR3, which was the first peptide to actually hit the market back in 2014. So this whole craze of peptides that just came out, we were actually the forefathers of it. way back in the day. I wrote the protocol on what you should do for healing this, that, and the other. And I just sit there and see how everything now just kind of pops up from it. All these people are coming out being like, I'm the godfather of this. I'm like, man, good Lord, you have 1 million followers, but you're an idiot.
If someone's doing NAD, man, they, hopefully they understand how it works. I pulled up I have, funny, it was stashed in my office when we moved. I have that old biochemistry poster that my roommate and I had all marked up and studied on, and there's NAD. It's everywhere. And I was like, well, no doubt. Yeah, I wouldn't mind having more of that myself. And, in a little bit after COVID, I had a transverse myelitis, demyelination of my spinal cord. I couldn't figure out what it was. Finally, we found it, got it to go away. And then a couple of years later, it comes back again. Like, oh, once bitten, that's an accident. Twice, that's a problem. And so both times we did NAD, neuro infusions, and I'm doing a bunch of other junk, of course. But yeah, it's like, what else do I need to be doing to give my body what it needs to not do that anymore?
No, for sure. Right? And again, that's where it starts with the actual diagnostic testing to understand, and then it builds up from that. Wow. I find a lot of mercury toxicity. Granted, everybody's here eating sushi, but sushi's everywhere now. You know what I mean? Like, you probably got more sushi in Texas than we do in Florida.
We got plenty.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then again, of course, the whole, what's it called? Amalgam fillings, where the mercury is put into it. So the amount of just mercury, one metal, mercury toxicity is probably, I'd say, the silent epidemic in this country that nobody really understands. Then you have arsenic, you have lead, you have hidden pathogens like CMV, EBV, Candida, Lyme, all these different things that once you start unpackaging what that person is, you find all these small little microfractured stresses that just turn into this gigantic, turn into Parkinson's at 50. Turning into cancer, and it's all these things like we're getting cancer and autism, all these weird diseases, and everyone's like, well, where's it coming from? The vaccines, maybe, but I mean, there's so much more going on. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much more we could look at.
Right. Oh yeah, vaccines get a pretty bad rap. Not obviously for the most recent ones, but the point being is that there's so much crap in our diet and exposed in our bodies. We're walking around under attack at all times. Vaccines aren't even on my list of things that are causing this.
No.
However,
food here is the worst. I mean, the food is just disgusting here.
The food is terrible. One thing, not to get political, but I am hoping that the new regime starts cutting out what they're allowed to put in our food.
Yeah, I hope they start moving their asses. They've had about 6-7 months now. Let's see some movement.
There's been a lot of talk and no action. Right. I'm with you. However, then you just talk to your patient and be like, does it look like food? Was it food before they put it in that package? Then don't eat it.
How many ingredients are there? Look at a ketchup package from here versus France. It's mind blowing.
Yes, it's crazy. Well, and most of them are, biochemical names. Your organic chemistry. You're like, oh yeah, I'm having like shake
roast malate, where it's insane. It's just insane stuff.
Well, okay. So, with everything that you're doing with the way that, you've been doing it for a while, you're changing lives. Tell me, where do you think the future's going here with kind of what you're doing and then the people that are following in your footsteps and walking alongside you in this outside the box, we'll call it common sense medicine movement of yours?
There we go. Well, I think there's a short term and an actual long term. I think the short term, there's always a buzzword every year. It was NAD, then it was methylene blue. I think the biggest one coming up now, I do a lot of lectures and conferences for like the A-Form and things like that. I think senescent cell clearance is going to be the big new buzzword coming up here. Because again, getting rid of organic waste is something that nobody really pays attention to. Chronic inflammation, zombie cells, all that kind of stuff. I think you're going to see a huge push for that. We do an amazing program here with that. It's really, really unique. It's a 1-month dump. You do it 4 times a year and you just feel fantastic. I mean, whether it's combat or pain or cancer, whatever it could be. But I think the obvious long-term play is going to be AI. I'm actually in the process right now. I partnered with 2 really unique people. We're developing a really unique AI that I haven't seen out yet that's going to kind of bridge the gap between doctor-patient and doctor fulfillment. Which I think gets pitfall. I think, you can kill a patient with all this beautiful information, but if they aren't going anywhere with it, it's just masturbation. You know what I mean? Like, and then you have the physician who sits there and gets his information. Then they got to go through and have their staff talk to this pharmacy, talk to that nutraceutical, whatever it could be. So we're kind of developing something almost like a Jarvis from Iron Man, where everything's, all in one, click, boom, you're ready to go, where we're incorporating the wearables. That's something that's super, super important, I think. Whether either Yeah, or whether you're going to urinate in a toilet and all of a sudden all your vitamins, or you're going to do the wearable aspects, and it's like, hey, maybe you should try some meat today, or stuff like that. So I'm super excited about that in the actual long run. I do caution everybody because there's so many AIs out there now, and doctors and all their practices. You have to understand, and I think we've talked about this a lot, in a previous podcast, but you have to understand that the AI learns from traditional medicine, NIH, NCBI, PubMed, all those different things that traditional doctors hold as their Bible or their Quran, whatever religion you're with.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is, there's three big things that I always try to caution people. Number one is that the third leading cause of death in the United States is a medical error. Number two is the revolving door policy of the HHS is where I think it's 40% of the high paying executives then transition into big pharma jobs. So they're kind of scratching each other's back. And the last one, which I think is the most diabolical, is that 48% of the FDA's salary is paid for by usury fees by big pharma. That's like Al Capone paying the Chicago Police Department salary. Like, don't go after me. And it's scary to see that the largest fine in the history of humanity was paid for by a big pharma company, and then we give them a contract for vaccines in the next year. I mean, they've openly admitted to sitting there and screwing over millions of Americans, pay a $1.2 billion fine, which is a slap on the wrist, and then they get a $149 billion contract. Yeah, but the situation where AI is learning from that. So all these linear chat GPTs, this, that, and other, it's way too linear. So, patients bring this in. It's just like, yeah, I get it. There's some great information here, but when it comes to it, you still need to position the eyes on it. And I think the long play is eventually having the AI that's actually, I guess, common sense smart, not just book smart.
Yeah. That has the problem with AI is it has a limited knowledge base. It knows what you gave it to know. And so finding the right knowledge base and platform from which for it to do its job, that's really where we need to be. And then there always needs to be a human in the loop because,
of course,
how often does AI just tell your patient that they're dying of cancer? Like almost every time.
Get on a statin, get on blood pressure. Like, wait a minute, let's back off the statin train. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I could take a statin and just stay on the couch, or otherwise I'd have to go work out and I'd have to stop eating what I want to eat.
Convenience, man. Convenience. Yeah, man. I don't know if you've seen the movie WALL-E. We're all turned into those gals of humanity in WALL-E. I mean, very quickly here.
Yeah. That was a little too close to home.
Way too low.
Well, hey man, for fun, how do you stay grounded living in Miami Beach and running this high performance clinic of yours and, rubbing elbows with the rich and famous and changing lives just makes you feel good? How you stay grounded over there?
Oh, it's quite a process. And again, as you can see by the bipolar nature of my office here, I always try to take a rather, in-depth, unique trip quarterly. So, take 2 weeks off. And again, I know not everybody can do that, but if I didn't do that, all work and no play makes Jack a very dull boy. Yeah, it makes Ivan a very, very dull boy. So I'm always trying to, consistently do things I haven't done before. When I was 22, I started a top 10 list of 3 different categories: skill, milestone, and adventure. And every year I have to check one of those off each time. This year I got the check off. I had on there high five a gorilla. And I actually, 3 weeks ago, I got my ass grabbed by one in Uganda.
Oh, no.
Kind of scary. I'm not going to lie, having a silverback grab you by your pants when he's charging. But I'll tell you what, it's a hell of a story. You know what I mean? Like, so just things like that. Always, consistently, trying to improve myself. I taught myself the piano last year. I'm going to start working on the violin. There's a lot of unique things that I do here exercise wise. I'm going to, start boxing the master's class, just keeping yourself different and dynamic. My father gave me some of the best advice before he passed away. It was always be the most interesting person at the table. And that's what I always try to be, no matter what.
Well, that's a high calling. That takes a lot of work. So,
you have to be very, very ADD, bipolar, and BPD all at the same time.
That does help. But if you just think you're the most interesting person at the table, but you're not, then you're just the most annoying guy at the table.
You're the most annoying person at the table.
At least and hey, listen, to give the gorilla a little, you were probably dressed a little skimpy. You had probably had a
tuxedo t-shirt. I'm not going to lie. There was a bit of a pro with this one.
What's your favorite biohack, daily habit, whatever you want to call it, that you advise your patients to go to?
I think sleep health is the most important. I'm 41. I've slept 13 and a half years of my life, if you equate out 8 hours a day. And I think everybody thinks sleep is just shut your eyes and go to sleep. Sleep is more complicated than almost your cardiovascular system, with how your brain turns on, turns off, how during REM sleep you repackage your mind, during delta sleep you release things like growth hormone to rebuild your body, and the sleep cycles, how many you have a night. I mean, it's a very intricate process. And, what you do before bed is extremely important. And don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm a perfect sleeper. I do have peptides and stuff that help me with it. But, three nights of solid sleep is better than any medication on earth. Any medication, 3 nights of solid sleep, you'll fix anything. So I always try to at least get, 3 to 4 good nights of sleep if I'm not out being crazy and doing things I shouldn't be doing. And, hey, I'm still 41, that might be old for some people, but I pretty much act like I'm, 12 still. So I think sleep is one of the most important ones. And also, just diet, exercise. It helps you burn off a lot of that pent up aggression, that pent up system. So whether you do it weight training, yoga, whatever it could be, I'm more of a boxer / weight guy just from, growing up the way I did. But get out, get active, and have some fun.
Well, and I have so many people with depression and anxiety, and there's so much going on, and they've got all the inflammation and all the other things too, but they don't exercise. I'm like, oh no. Step 1, 2, and 3 is go for a walk.
Easiest thing in the world.
Let's go. You're gonna feel so much better.
Sure.
Let's not get the cart before the horse here. And then all of the data that's coming out about longevity. It's like we knew muscle mass and strength was important, but we had no idea.
It's critical. And again, like I said, right now I'm about 215 pounds, and my resting metabolic rate is 3,200 calories. So I need to wake up and consume that, not just to not lose weight. And that's how important that is. And again, like if you met me, man, my mind works about 1 million miles a minute, my mouth 2 miles a minute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so a situation where I got to kind of balance that out. But exercising, when I was doing the whole Mr. USA thing, the professional body or the bodybuilding, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Walking was the most important thing. People don't understand. If you want to burn fat, oxidative phosphorylation is low intensity. You want to go out there and run high intensity and very blah, 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 blah. You really aren't burning fat. You're burning sugar, which can help with your BMR down the line. But if you want to just get started out, walk for 45 minutes at, a 4 pace on the treadmill. Easiest. I mean, I do all my work, my emails. I don't know how many TV shows I've watched because it's very low intensity, yet it's hard for me to actually put fat on. It's just common sense with the way you do it. You combine the right nutrition, the right hydration, and the right medicines, peptides, whatever else you might be on for whatever your goals are. And, staying healthy is one of the easiest things you can do. Being unhealthy is one of the funnest things you can do.
Yeah.
Right. It's a balance between both.
Well, and it's a great way to, you go on that walk and you're burning the fat and you're doing these things for your body and you're releasing these chemicals, but you're also going to walk with your wife and have that and get to decompress your day and work through some things. It's so therapeutic. We were not meant to be sitting still and staring at screens.
You are no match.
That's not how we were created. It's never going to be how you feel your best. And yet at the end of the day, I'm tired and my wife and I look at each other and we're like, are we going to go on a walk today? I don't know. It's like, if we don't, we'll wish we had. And even if we're in Texas and Miami and it's stupid hot, still worth it.
Let's do it. You know what I mean? Get out there. Sunshine is amazing. Everybody thinks the sun's the devil. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
no, not at all. I mean, like Superman needed the sun. That's how he got his power. I mean, like, come on. That's how good it is.
Superman is good for us, right?
Exactly. I mean,
man,
why would Ivan lie to us?
Yeah, no way. No, Superman's for real. Let's don't start there. I heard the movie was good. Hadn't seen it.
I haven't either yet. I heard it's good. I was a Henry Cavill fan, so I mean, this is gonna be tough.
He looked a little cheesy for me, but everybody said he's really great. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. I'll trust you. Hey, Ivan, thank you so much. What you're doing is so inspiring. I love the stuff you've got going on. I may reach out and get more information about the lab panels you're drawing and going through that. What's the best way for people to follow you, get in contact, ask questions, get to know more about lifestyle medicine?
Yeah, so sure. Instagram, it's Lifestyle Medicine and Dr. Ivan Rusilko. Dr. Ivan Rusilko is a little bit bipolar, so have some fun with that. You wouldn't even know I'm a doctor. But of course, Access Medical Labs is the one who basically hosts the podcast that I have. They're phenomenal. So if you're a physician looking for labs, I've gone through in my 15 years so many. They're phenomenal. So you can follow them on everything. And then my podcast is called Lifestyle Medicine, which will be on Spotify and YouTube. So there's a lot of ways to find me. If you Google me, I apologize in advance, but it should be kind of funny. There's all kinds of fun stuff on there. I might be, kind of half naked, but hey, it is what it is. Use what you got.
Yeah, at least you've established that you have a hard time putting on fat. That helps a little bit. You're going to be scantily clad.
And by the way, kudos to you as well. Your whole business model, I love it. I think that's kind of the future when it comes to medicine. So I'm really appreciative of what you're doing. I think it's a gold star when it comes to the direction healthcare is going right now.
Well, I appreciate it. It means a lot coming from you, man. And I think the more that we can learn from each other on getting closer to the
Energy.
to right, let's do it.
Heck yeah, my man.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on. I loved it. It's a treat. We'll have to connect again soon, but thanks a lot.
Rock and roll, my man. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining me today on MyMD Unscripted. I hope today's conversation opened your mind and inspired you to imagine a better path for your health and therefore life. If you found value in this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone passionate about transforming healthcare. Real change starts with real conversations, so let's keep them going. Until next time, stay well, stay curious, and never stop pushing for better.